And my very first session was shadowing Paul Epworth and Matt Wiggins on the first Florence album.
Wow, that's dope.
So,
Hey guys, what's going on? It's MixedByJocelin here, back with another episode of Mixed Opinions, and we have a brilliant guest on for you guys today. But before we get into that, I just want to give a big shout out to Audio Movers for sponsoring this podcast. They're giving you guys 1 month free of their plugin, Listen To, and all of the other plugins they have listed on their site. All you have to do is hit the link below and then use code Mixed Opinions 2024 at checkout, and you'll get 1 month free of all of their plugins. Shout out to those guys. But today we've got on the podcast Brian Williams. Wow, my tongue twist there. We're gonna go boom dice, and we got Brian.
You mean Birdman? Brian Williams, Birdman?
Yeah, exactly. AKA Boom Dice on the podcast. What is going on, bro? Absolute.
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I always love doing things like this to, hopefully drop some nuggets of wisdom, as I like to say, for the next generation.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. There you go. You're doing a service to the industry there.
Well, I'm totally selfish because I just want to know all the gems. So that's why I'm here. But I mean, dude, really, obviously you're Canadian. I'm right in saying that.
Yeah.
But UK legend, you know what I mean? You've done some absolute crazy records in the UK. So like real pleasure to have you on. And you are my second engineer from Canada now. So yeah.
Okay.
We're slowly getting you all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
well, it's interesting because I've only been back. I mean, I always say I was professionally raised in the UK, and UK has been great for me for hitting all my goals and everything. But I just moved back here about a year ago, and it's an adjustment. I'll tell you that. It's not. I left here when I was 19. I'll be almost 40.
Oh wow!
2 years. So.
And whereabouts in the UK did you spend most of your time?
So, when I moved here, I went from Toronto to Liverpool. And so I spent about 3-4 years in Liverpool, and then I was in London from 2009, I think, roughly, till last year.
Okay, right. So that's quite interesting. Would you, because a lot of your credits, you've got a lot of like rock and like indie credits. Would you say like being based in Liverpool had something to do with those like earlier records that you worked on in that scene?
No. I mean, for Liverpool was literally just for university. So I went to Paul McCartney's spot, the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts.
Awesome.
And that was the kickoff. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go home after that. I just thought it was just for university, and that was it. But I made a lot of my connections down in London, so I spent a serious amount of time going down, staying in crap hole hotels, just knocking on the doors of like Abbey Road, Rack, you name it. I found the people that you needed to speak to and say, look, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing.
I see.
How can I help you?
Yeah.
So the real like kickoff of everything was when I got to London.
Right.
So, I mean, when you look at it with hindsight, it was like the ideal kind of setup because I got my foot in the door with this studio company called Moloko, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with. They got
I've been to
loads of studios everywhere.
I've been to their Blue Room.
At
London Bridge.
I was based there back in 2009. It was a switch between what they call the Red Room now.
Yes, and that's the mixing room, right? The red room is the mixing room.
So I was based there first, and then switching between there and the pool. And my very first session was shadowing Paul Epworth and Matt Wiggins on the first Florence album.
Wow, that's dope.
So
That's crazy.
They threw me right in there, and it was in the pool, so they have,
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I was getting confused with the Red Room and the pool, and my dyslexic brain got it across, because it's the pool
Yeah.
is like where they do a lot of the live recordings, right? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a very, very, very unique space and
Yeah.
proper vibey studio.
Yeah. And they have, stuff that as a young buck trying to come up, I'm like, okay, I mean, I know what the room beside is, like the big mixing consoles and stuff, but this was all like esoteric 50s Russian,
Yeah,
like just crazy, crazy stuff
yeah.
everywhere, unconventional methods of recording and plugging things in and all of that. Anyway,
Well, it's a
it was,
super inspiring room just because of the layout of
right.
it and like everything that they've put in there. You go in there and you're almost like it's a bit cluttered, but like obviously as a musician, you're like it's just crazy. Do you know what I mean? You have all
Yeah.
these tools, and do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just
Like a
there to get the
playground.
job done. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So it kind of started from there. And then really like a lot of the indie band based stuff outside of, at that time came when I kind of I got paired with somebody named Craig Silvey, who's a really great mixer and has done a whole ton of great things, and
yeah.
Grammys and all that lovely stuff. And it was really with him where I call him my professional wife,
Right.
because we really developed a method together that he continues to this day, and so everyone that's kind of underneath him, let's say as an apprentice sort of thing, follows that method still that we created, which I still use myself.
Right.
So
What?
it was really
Tell us a
there.
bit. Tell us a bit more about this method. Like, how does it
It's
break
just
down?
like what it is. It's it was all mixing, and
Right.
so that's the difference. Was before that I was bouncing around all the studios in London, doing great tracking sessions with new producers, engineers. As an assistant, that's the best way to soak it all up, right?
Right. Yeah.
Instead of just trying to learn stuff on your own. And so I was lucky with Moloko there because they trusted me enough, and I guess I was, enjoyable enough to be around that.
That's a key part of it.
Yeah, that I got lots of experience there. But then the mixing thing was really where I cut my teeth and dug in from that point. But by method there, I just mean like the silly stuff. If you're having to turn over one to 1.5 songs a day even. And so here's the key thing. Craig Silvey at the time, not sure what he's doing now, we're going back a long time, but for a number of years he was doing complete analog using Pro Tools, but completely analog mixing.
Right. Is this in the Red Room, or is this?
No, this was in his the studio. Unfortunately, was in Shoreditch. It's gone now. It was called the
Okay.
Garden.
Okay.
And pretty much an exact duplicate of his spot in, I think it's near Ladbroke Grove, West London, called Toast Studios.
Yes. Okay. Right.
Exact setup of everything that he's got there was what was down in that dungy basement.
Yes.
But by method, I just mean like, okay, well, we have to make efficiencies here. We have to clean the session, so we put a second rig in there so I can, while he's doing his thing,
I see. Yeah.
go in there and do my thing, deal with the labels, get the files. A lot of the boring stuff that makes it really monotonous was the things that I was trying to solve, so that we could basically get in there and mix
and just get straight to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So having
exactly.
that like fine-tuned system in place
That's
to
right. Yeah.
so you could almost do all of that, as you said, monotonous stuff like just on
Yeah.
autopilot, and just
Yeah.
get straight down to the the interesting stuff and make the
The
record
fun.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
So, that kind of early, as non-glamorous as it is, I mean, you're talking doing that stuff of Monsters and Men on the first album, which, went nuts, is still doing
I was
well.
literally about to bring that up. I was like, where
Right.
that was one of the records I wanted to bring it up was,
Yeah.
Obviously it's huge, huge record.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know the story behind that really, and like what your involvement was in it, and like, where you were in your career when that was happening.
Well, so at that time, I was still working with Craig Silvey, and it's funny, man, because you never know really, this full well. You never know who's going to pop. So
Yeah.
I was in there literally every day. My beard was about this big. I didn't see the daylight at all, probably for a couple years. That's how hard we hit it. Craig had lots of stuff coming to him, and I'd never heard of them before. And to me that was the best way to be, because you can just kind of sit there and appreciate it and enjoy it.
Yeah,
And
not have like a biased sort of look on it
right,
already.
exactly. And I don't know where they were in their career at the time, but maybe it would have been a little different if I knew who they were or whatever. But we just mixed the album, and generally speaking, it's about a track a day until the whole thing's done, and then some recalls. But I don't remember it being anything over 2 weeks. Like, these things come out quick.
Yeah. You have to get it done. There's deadlines, labels,
Right.
and yeah.
And when you've got the process there, you're just like, bam, new one, next one, next one, next one. So
when you were mixing Little Talks, obviously that being arguably like their biggest record and just a massive song, right? Was that at that point, like, obviously being interested in working it with the band and obviously doing the mixes, was it like a situation where you were like, okay, like, we sort of know this is going to be a big record, or was it like, we're just getting through it and just mixing it to the best?
honestly, I don't remember myself, or like, we were digging it for sure. It was like,
It's a
undeniably
massive, like not in terms of like its popularity, but in terms of its sonics and sound, it's huge.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know?
And I don't know if you ever really. It's hard I don't sit there sometimes, like, when I get goosebumps after you do something, you do your treatments and stuff, and like, once Craig goes in there, he kind of has a real good sort of setup and system in place to kind of make these things wide and big and huge. But this was one of the first times where I realized, or one of the early times, let's say, where the importance of the recording side is undeniable.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I sat there cleaning up crap for many years before that. Before you then do your thing and make it sound ready. But you didn't have to do that much on some things, because, and I can't remember the engineer. He's an Icelandic guy. But
wait, do you know where it was recorded?
Yeah, it was in Iceland.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even ever meet them.
Right.
I think maybe they may have came once, Raggy, and I think it was Raggy and Nana.
Right.
The guy and the girl lead singer. Anyway, I think they came once. But another interesting thing for me at that time was, oh wait, I could do this, and it could be anywhere in the world, because they were in, I don't know, Iceland, or maybe on tour or something. The label was in the U.S. and we were in London.
Yeah.
Right? So everything was done remote at that time, and you're going, I don't know, when did it come out? 2011 or something like that.
So even back then, it was so super all about like just file transfer and the freedom of it. That's one thing that sort of made engineering and mostly mixing so sort of like intriguing to me, where I was like, I can just, I can get in it, and I don't have to be going to the same place every day. We can set up a studio wherever I want in the world and just be in my own space. And I think as a mix engineer, I don't know if you agree, I think it's important to work like that. So to get the best out of you have to be in an environment that you fully feel comfortable in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I love being alone.
Yeah. Yes. Same.
Or let's say I love working alone.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
And of course, there's certain things around that would make it quicker. The back and forths over email can be, sometimes things get lost in translation depending on who you're working with and where they are and the time difference and all that. But I mean, there's still no excuse. It's still easier than having to coordinate being together if there's 4 different stakeholders in the project coming from different spots.
Yeah. And I mean, like, not to shamelessly plug the sponsor, but even now, so with audio movers and plugins like that, like, it's seamless now. You can just jump on a video call like we're on now, transmit the door, and you're just off. Do you use any sort of like transmission systems in your work?
I was, but before I left, I mean, so I was still kind of, in the last bunch of years, I made a transition from doing what I had done for the decade before of going around between different studios, um, sometimes working analog, sometimes not. But
Mm.
so I would use the ones that they have in the studios, but I'm still looking for the thing that I want now because my life's kind of thrown up with the move. So I'm resetting up the studio, um, and I want to get, what I think is going to kind of
A
work
new
for me.
system in place. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But I was using them. I love them. It makes perfect sense, and yeah, I mean,
Mm.
they've made it even easier now.
Yeah, and well, to me, they're just a great company. That's why I like working with them, to be
Yeah,
honest. Like, and
yeah,
like, they're very like, they're happy to like actually jump on the phone with you personally and talk to you. And do you know what I
yeah.
mean? It's not just like talking to a screen. So,
Right.
but yeah, that's awesome. So, um, from there, where did the sort of like growth to sort of like moving away from more of the assistant role and like collaborative mixing to, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to stand on my own and start taking on projects and stuff like that?
Well, it was pretty much right after that, and like I was at the crossroads where a good couple of years from that time when I was with Craig, we had exclusively been mixing, and at that time in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I love ticking notches off my belt, so like I want to be a good tracking engineer as well, and I want to also, be able to mix so you get those big records and
So,
do all of that. So I spent time on my own, taking on every session, being the yes man, trying to
right.
get mixing. Went through a few kind of strange management setups that
Yeah,
were
well, yeah, been through that.
that were a trial, but didn't quite work out in the end.
Yeah.
But so it was after that I went off and started doing my own thing. And I always liked all types of music, so I'm the kind of guy you can throw me in whatever session,
Well,
and
this is what I was going to say. This is one of the next things I
yeah,
was going to say. Like, your catalog is so vast. You've got all this indie rock, you
yeah,
have like grime under there, and then you've got like
right,
dance music remixes. Like, it's crazy. And it's a lot more especially at someone at your level. Like, normally people sort of home in and just like get into a
yeah,
genre and just like spearhead that, but yours sort of continue to flower. And from looking at your catalog, one thing that I was quite interested in, obviously you've done all this mixing and stuff, and then I see, which is a huge record, and I cannot do this episode without bringing it up, especially for all the UK fans out there, but Gang Signs and Prayers, right?
yeah.
Like, I'm looking at this. I started looking at your stuff. Like, I use Muso, and I'm like, just looking through, and I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, what? Gang Signs of Prayer? Like, what's going on here? Like, so from what I can gather, was you the tracking engineer for that, or was there other sort of like roles in there?
Yeah, yeah. So at the time, uh, and like the only thing I knew about Stormzy at the time was from his YouTube stuff. But like I was so busy at working that I didn't really look into it too much. But I knew his name at the time.
Mm.
Anyway, I had done some stuff on Maverick Sabre with
Oh,
Fraser T. Smith, who,
another brilliant artist. Love that guy.
yeah.
Mm.
And so he called me. I think he was in this transition where he had an engineer that had left. He was looking for somebody else. I was available. I didn't quite, fresh off the back of the mixing stint, I didn't quite want to lock in for good
Mm.
with him. But so at that time, I would fill in for a couple of
Well,
projects and stuff.
that was one thing that I was going to say. Sorry to cut you, because it's like
Yep.
it's almost like the other way round, because
Yeah.
a lot of people spend years and years and years tracking to then even get an opportunity to
Yeah.
assist on a mix. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
I
it's
know.
like, so to me, it's like, it was quite interesting looking at it. That's why I wanted to discuss it with you, because I was like,
Yeah.
the times don't line up for like when
Yeah.
you can see someone's catalog of work and you can see the progression,
Yeah.
assistant,
That's
assistant
right.
recording,
Yeah.
assistant mix, and it sort of progresses like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I was quite interested in that. So please carry on. Like,
Well,
you
it
took the
it
job.
was by design because I thought, I just come off the back of this fantastic for my career, fantastic stint, but I want my name associated with it on my own.
Yeah.
I don't want to be tied to anything anymore.
Yes. 100%.
And not that there's anything wrong with that because that's how you get opportunities, but I was ready. And
It's your time to shine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I knew it at the time, and I was out there doing it. So there's a lot of people that I speak to that never really know when to make the jump, or, they might be in similar situations or even all different, but just, a little unconfident. And I just always say, when you're ready. You have to have confidence, not cockiness, but you have to be able to go in there and execute with any type of person, right? So at the time, Fraser was trying to get me to. He was proposing that maybe I could go in there, and I thought, okay, well, I'm taking on the freelance jobs, um, like the Maverick Sabre stuff and the Stormzy record, and do I want this to be the next couple of years or maybe longer, because you never really know?
Yeah.
Or do I want to keep going out there, experimenting, trying new things, taking my own mixed jobs, do the management thing, try to see where that goes while taking tracking, So I was basically just experimenting at the time, and I didn't want to lock back in. Now, also at the time, there was Plan B was trying to also get me to be his engineer too. And
all the legends.
yeah, and I thought, you know what, like, am I stupid for like saying no to these opportunities? But then I thought, no, because if I did that, I mean, you never know what would happen, but I
No.
may have not gone on to do the rest of the stuff that I went on to do after
Yeah.
that, right? So I spent then the couple of years after that just doing all that, mixing, tracking, taking on whatever I could. And anyway, the Stormzy record, Fraser called me up. I filled in for probably, I don't know, 3 weeks, something like that. But it turns out, so I was there right at the beginning, where it was the jam sessions that turned out to be all the big records.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think I was involved in maybe 6, 7 of them or something like that. And Manon, his engineer, who's also since gone on to do fantastic things.
She's been on the podcast.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, she's a friend of mine. She's brilliant.
Yeah. She was awesome. She was really always very helpful, friendly. So I was working closely with her. She obviously did the majority of the record with Fraser and went on to do the mixing and stuff. But what a great experience that was, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, please.
Sorry, I was just going to say, for me, as somebody from here, to be trusted enough to be remotely involved in what ended up to be such a historical record for, UK music, full stop, is massive.
Well, I think that says a lot about you, in the fact that you even realize that that's
right.
a thought process, because, I mean, maybe not so much then, but now it's, he's very sort of looked up to. And but for me, from the very beginning, I grew up around Croydon. His younger brother went to my college, and was in the music tech stuff. He was our inspiration. Do you know what I mean? And who we all saw as okay, cool, man, we can do this and actually really do it well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's when I see anything like that pop up, I have to talk about it. Do you know what I mean? Because just personally for me, it means so much. Do you know what I mean? That music is kept me inspired.
And it was a big milestone, for my career as well. It's after that, then you start getting, I mean, there's lots of other examples.
Of course,
you start getting people coming to you because of certain things.
Yeah, exactly that. And I mean, it's he pioneered something. He took on something that for the most part had been blocked by the industry for a long, long time. A genre that nobody wanted to see, the industry heads or whatever didn't want to see it flourish. It stayed underground for a long, long time. And the few records that would come out from these artists before, like Dizzy Rascal, Wiley and stuff, they didn't have that essence about it. But Stormzy managed to bridge the gap and keep the essence and push it to the mainstream. So then obviously from that point, and when the industry sees it as being successful, it's okay, how do we duplicate this? Do you know what I mean? So that's obviously where it starts the snowball effect
Yeah.
comes. Do you know what I
And
mean?
well, look at where it's all at now.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. I mean, it in the UK, that type of music is mainstream now. It's pop.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always in the top 10. It's the most listened to genre.
Yeah.
It's like what happened in America with hip hop. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
now that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
Funny, just a quick funny story.
yeah,
When
please.
I came back, and you know, when I come back here over the last 20 years, I never have really any deep conversations about like who I'm working with or anything with my old pals and stuff like that. But when I moved back, I was driving, and in the van beside me, I hear somebody bumping Central C,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
and obviously knowing these people, uh, or knowing people from here, I'm like, okay, this has got to be like a rare occurrence where you
Yeah, yeah,
somehow heard
yeah.
that from a friend or whatever. I'm sitting there being like, I wonder if they even understand what he's saying.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I mean,
You know?
I was at NAMM last year,
Yeah.
and, you know, we was talking about, like, I think a Skepta song came on or something like that, just out of the PA system, and I was talking to the guys behind me, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, love this tune." They were like, "Oh, who is it? I don't know." And I'm like, turning around, I'm like, "You don't get any more legendary than Skepta in London, like, in the UK."
Yeah.
Like, I just it's
Yeah.
madness to me. I'm like, "Guys, you need to, like, venture out and, like, listen to the music
Yeah.
that we have in the UK because it is crazy." Like, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I do feel like there's a
Well,
bit of that, but
the reason for me to bring that up is not only because I saw these kids listening to something that I would have thought has been traditionally isolated to UK, certain
and
parts of
Europe.
Europe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, things are changing here
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I talk to people know Dave, people know, you know.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that actually has to do obviously with one of the guys from your own town, Drake. You know,
Yeah, of course. Of
I
course.
think he has a massive part to do with the connection
Yeah.
because he's had, you know, he's been on tunes with Skepta, he's been on tunes
Yeah.
with Dave, he's done tunes with Central C, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and he's a
Big
massive
supporter.
ambassador
Yeah,
for, you
exactly.
know, us. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, that and I think that's only gonna get stronger, and I think it's a good thing that it's happening now. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because we have a lot to offer the world
Yeah.
when it comes to music, and we have
That's
done
right.
in the past. Like, you know, we brought the world the Beatles, and you
That's
know,
right.
amazing other like rock acts, and you name it.
Yeah.
So
The list goes on.
yeah, so now it's time get back to it. Do you know what I mean?
That's
Show the
right.
world.
Yeah.
Another artist I wanted to talk about that I saw on your credit list is Sam Ryder.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably like one of the best vocalists I've ever heard, and you know, in such a unique way he came around as well. Like, I wanted to ask, what was it like working with him and sort of like the role that you played in that project?
Well, I actually wrote, I think I wrote like this I got inspired one day after seeing what happened to him because I saw the journey, right?
Mm,
And that journey is the every artist journey,
right.
right? Except he's got great results
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the end,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And that was interesting because in 20, I don't know, 2014, 15, 16, I did a whole album with him and plus an EP, and he would bring me from his or bring me to his shed in his backyard in his parents' house
Yeah.
in Essex, and so I would take the trip
Whereabouts in Essex? Sorry.
in Hatfield, Peveril.
Oh, okay. I'm in Chelmsford, Essex.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'd go with my little suitcase and I'd take my portable setup because you know the shed is, as you can imagine, it's a
I
shed,
said,
right?
yeah.
So all we really had was a couple of guitar amps, 5 guitars, and then like a little workstation to record stuff, a few mics, nothing really. And so we made an EP first, and that was really more in the like folk hints of pop stuff.
Mm.
And you know, there was no denying he was a fantastic artist, but he was really indecisive. He really, and at this point, I'd never struggled that much to get something out of
Right.
somebody.
He just
And
didn't know where his footing was yet.
yeah, he didn't know what he wanted. He didn't know where to go, you know, and that was my job to try to help him. But when you do and you present 5 options and it's still like, oh, I don't know, you know, it can get pretty hard. So anyway, I guess he thought the solution, he wanted to make an album, and I said, I'll do it with you, but are you sure that's what we should do? Because you haven't put anything out yet.
Yeah,
Anyway, we
it's
had
not the
fun.
most productive sort of use of
Yeah,
time at the beginning of your career. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly. But we had fun. He took me to Nashville with him. We drank whiskey and made what I think is an amazing record that's never going to come out.
Oh God.
And sometimes he revisits those songs. Like when I see him singing on TikTok, he revisits some of those songs. So I still have some hope that maybe
Maybe.
the stuff,
Yeah.
the whiskey fueled action is going to come out. But anyway,
Is that
couple
it?
years
What is
go
that
by.
sort of like Nashville style? Is it kind of like country sort of? Was it?
There was some influence. There's pedal steel dudes, amazing session musicians that came out.
Yeah.
Also, we did it in a guy's living room.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
So it wasn't a proper studio, and we rented a little couple of things, rented some amps. Everything was done on a couple of amps and recording the drums, and it was really good fun. But fast forward a couple of years, he kind of didn't really put anything out. He tried a few things, was thinking of switching to being a video editor. He was doing all his own stuff, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
TikTok worked, and
Yeah.
then he was off to the races.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what I was going to say. I mean, you say like 2016 sort of area was when you was working with him. I was like, I never even had a sniff of him until obviously we're all in lockdown, and this guy is just absolutely belting it on my TikTok, and I'm obsessed with his vocals. And I'm like, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, dude, I need to hear some music from this guy. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's awesome because didn't he do what do you call it? Eurovision, or was it Eurovision?
Yeah,
Was
he
that?
was
Yeah,
UK Eurovision
yeah.
pick
I mean,
for
crazy.
what was that
It
last
was,
year,
yeah,
2 years ago or
yeah,
something.
yeah. Which, and in my head, I was like, dude, thank God, like I haven't actually heard someone that I could really back from the UK in that competition in years. And I was like, I actually like this guy, that I can back that. Do you know what I mean? 100%. He's got an amazing voice. But yeah, he's doing really cool stuff now as well. Do you know what I mean? He's definitely like in that pop lane now. But yeah, super cool. And again, just props to you of your catalog. And I'm just going through it. I'm just like, this is just mad. Like everything that you've got going on, and all the records that you've done. That being said, another question I wanted to ask you. Obviously, you've gone and started your career. I use traditionally sort of like very lightly, because no one does anything traditionally in the music industry. Everyone has a unique story, but more along the lines of, you didn't, there's this new generation of like DIY sort of engineers and producers and stuff, like me being one as well, but you've gone down the more sort of like traditional route of like finding the studios and stuff like that. What would you say, like now at your current stage, or even at any point in your career, is like one of the bigger challenges you face being, a self-employed engineer, mixer, working in the industry?
Well, it's tough for me coming from, how I started, because, well, even then there wasn't really, I was going to say budgets is obviously everyone's concern at all points. Everyone wants you to work for free and do more, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, but then that's always been a problem since I started, for sure. But what I had to do was, because let's say I was spoiled, right? The way that I started is a path that very few have access to. And that's just because, studios are closing. There's a list of CVs this big, blah, blah, blah.
I wouldn't say lucky or anything, because you worked for that and you've obviously done the right things and said the right fit,
right.
Get in there. Like every door opens for a reason,
Right. And I put in hard work.
Yeah.
Which still matters.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I would say one of the hardest things for me, as in the progression of it, was when I kind of stopped using the studios because I thought it was wasteful, because I started as all analog and then progressively switched to all digital, but had my analog workflow transferred over into how I would work digitally.
Yeah.
Then I realized, okay, well, I can actually save this tiny budget by not blowing it on a studio.
Right.
That is unnecessary, other than sometimes the client thinks it looks cool and they want somewhere to go, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that's dumb because then I'll never make any money off anything.
Exactly.
And so I did it the other way. So I spent like a good 2 years of trying to get myself in the position where I could achieve the same results that I would in a commercial studio with a tiny budget, but doing it from my room or a hotel or wherever people want me to go.
Right. Yeah.
So now it's that back to that tick box. It's like, okay, where are my strengths? Okay, well, where are my weaknesses? How can I match those weaknesses to my strengths?
Yes.
So that I can deliver in any context, right? This is one of the reasons why over the years I've got an additional nickname called the Finisher.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And it's
the man that gets things done.
It's literally because if you got a problem, you call me, tell me what it is, I'll go finish it for you.
That's it. I mean, that's really what all engineers should be doing.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? We're here to solve problems and get things done. And that's like the core of it. I do feel like some people forget that sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, that's dope, man. That's dope. I mean, you talking of you coming from the analog to digital space, that leads into one of the questions. I'm going to skip through it quickly down to one because I think it's a nice segue. And this is a question that I'll get ridiculed for not asking. What is your 3 favorite mix plugins at the moment that's in all your sessions?
Okay. I would say Soothe
2.
Soothe 2, yeah. Soothe is one of them, just because it's, a nice problem solver quickly.
Yeah, it's very versatile as well. Like, you can go on, it can fix a lot of problems. Do you know what I mean?
And I've always loved the BXXL V2 compressor limiter spatializer.
Yeah.
It's a little combo, but honestly, that's in every one of my sessions. As is, surprisingly, I don't use that much UAD, but I'll say the Chandler Zener, however, depends where you are.
Yeah.
How you say it.
What side of the world you're on. How you pronounce your Zs.
The Zener. I love that because, had access to all of that stuff. So why wouldn't I use it? I got UAD here, but that one's in all of my sessions. I use that as a drum bus.
Right.
I'd say
that's
some
pretty
of the
cool.
top.
They're fairly unique answers actually for the pod.
Yeah.
So that's nice. Good to get some different ones. It's normally Pro Q3, Pro Q3, and Pro Q3.
Oh, hell yeah. That's on everything. That is on everything.
Yeah. But it's got to the point where, I was saying this the other day. I was like, the Pro Q3's got to a point where it's like, it's just like part of the door now. Like every engineer uses it and it's on everything. Like if you're using an EQ, that's what you're using. So, it's like, say something different, say something more interesting.
Yeah.
And when they finally bring out the Q4, then maybe we can talk. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't talk. I'm literally bringing out a whole YouTube video on it on Sunday. So
about your favorites?
No, the Pro Q3. I'd done a video on 3 use forms for the Pro Q3 you might not know. Obviously, we're gonna know, but the avid or beginner might not know that actually this is not just an EQ.
Before you move on, what's your favorite 3?
My favorite 3. Oh wow, no one's ever asked me. Thanks.
Now it's the finishers question
Yeah.
time.
At the moment, definitely the gold clip. I love that clipper. Like it's I downloaded the free trial and then I was like, right, well that's $250 out of my account because I'm buying it.
Yeah.
I would say Soothe again as well for me. Like I can't not mention it because it's on everything.
Yeah.
Especially since I went to a Jason Joshua seminar, and he broke down his like process and stuff like that, and using it in like a more sort of like parallel way with the kick and like
Oh yeah.
almost side chaining the bass with the kick and stuff like that, and using it in that and in that sense has like opened up a whole different like realm of control for me.
Cool.
And then I'd probably say the Shadow Hills
Oh yeah.
compressor. Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
love that tool. I put that on like my drum bus and I put it on my vocal bus. And sometimes I even just put it on my there's 3 cents of it like all going I get it on my mix bus as well because
Right.
it just opens everything up and it's like it's got a good like control and it's very good at sort of like I use it on the vocals. I almost like see it like sandpaper. It's like
Right.
just that last little bit of like
Yeah.
polish. Do you know what I mean? Just taking off any of those last edges that are coming through,
Yeah.
but keeping the dynamics. So yeah, that's my three. Thanks for asking me. That was cool.
Yeah.
I like that. So yeah, one of the other questions that I like to ask, and I just started asking this question recently. Actually, I'll give him his props. But our episode come out yesterday. I totally stole it off Wavy Wayne, from a video that I saw of him.
Yeah.
And it's quite a polarizing question. Sometimes people, I don't know, it's just a funny one to ask. But what in the pro audio industry right now is like irritating you the most? Like, what's like a thing or a phase that it's like, I don't know if I like this.
Just late. I mean, it's always pissed me off. It's lazy artists, man. Like COVID. The only good thing I'm going to say about COVID time was that it taught all of them that you will get nothing done if you don't rely. If you have to rely on other people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely.
So it's my number one complaint on anything and everything. It's like, be present with what you're doing. Have some respect for everyone that's in the session. Have some respect for everyone that's part of the chain to help you facilitate your goals, right? And it's more the thing that pisses me off more is more it's more so in the sense of like not as a mixer or an engineer. It's more when I'm wearing the producer songwriter hat or even in the label A&R side, I've kind of tapped into that in the last few years of artist development and stuff like that. It's understanding that your music, unfortunately, now is not enough because it's so saturated, right? This is the typical thing I'm about to say, but what are you doing that's better than or more than, let's say, than the other millions of great singers and great potential artists out there?
Yeah. I was actually having quite a similar discussion with one of my friends who's not in the music industry, and sort of like I always find it interesting getting people's perspectives that are not like directly connected to it,
Right.
and to see their thought process behind it. And he said something quite interesting, and I totally agree with it. It's like, the artists, their music, they don't sell their music anymore. You sell yourself, and the music is actually an advertisement for you, and then people buy into that, right? So it's like just creating music isn't enough. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to do everything else, which has its like irritations. I don't know if I'm like, it's kind of, I've much preferred a time where, I'd just go into HMV and I would just pick up an album because the artwork looked cool and then fall in love with it. And I, would never even hear of the talk.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I just cared about the band. But, society's not like that anymore. It's all about online. It's all about fast. It's all about quick. And so it's like, there is a lot more work you have to do. And if you want to be successful, you can't just rely on, making a half-hearted song and hoping the engineer brings it to life and releasing
and
it.
that's how I make my decisions now on who I work with. It's not it's not about taking anything and everything, or even the people that send me good stuff that has potential. It's more about, okay, well, are you just hoping that these songs pop off, or are you gonna sit and I've done it's I've sure everyone falls victim to like a song that you're like, yeah, that's gonna be a hit. That can be a hit. But what are the steps that you're taking to,
Yeah.
hope is not enough. You have to
Yeah.
tell me the steps you're taking as an artist. If I can't find you everywhere, if I can't see what you're doing, if I can't understand the artist package around it, much like what you touched on,
Yeah.
then, and if you don't have money, then I'm not working with you.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like, are you gonna do like the Sam Ryder? Like, are you gonna be uploading
Right,
3 TikToks a day, every single day?
right,
Like
right.
to gain that traction, to get to work those
Yeah,
algorithms, to get those eyes. Because, and it is this the harsh reality of it. Like, if you ain't on those platforms and you're not got a buzz, the labels don't even care. Like, you could have the best
that's
song in the
right.
world because, as you said, there's a million brilliant artists with brilliant songs, but it's much more than that now. It's having
Yeah,
that, the old saying is having the X factor. It's having that whole package, and the work
yeah,
ethic connected to that. So
yeah.
yeah,
And so that to circle back, that's the one thing that bothers me most is poor work ethic.
okay, I like that. That's good. That's good. That's good. And again, a unique answer. A lot of people
Yeah.
are spitting back AI or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? I love that. When I get if I go on to TikTok and I see, I don't know, Trump singing Johnny Cash, I'm like, damn,
Sick.
I didn't know that this would be enjoyable.
That's brilliant. That's what I mean. That's what we were saying in one of the previous episodes. Like, it's like, use that stuff to your strength. That's not going anywhere. Like, that's gonna knock
Right.
down the door regardless. Like, you're not gonna be the engineer that stops this from taking over. And
That's right.
if you don't embrace it and like implement whatever
Yeah.
into your workflow,
Yeah.
you're gonna get left behind. So that's
The
it.
thing that, yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And the thing with, let's say, music industry jobs, I haven't really sat there and thought too in depth of like, oh, AI is going to take over my job as a beat maker on this project or whatever it is
I
you're
don't think it
doing.
ever will fully. Like, music's music at the end of
No,
the day. It's personal. Like,
yeah, and I'm excited by that rather than scared of it because if it solves problems, why
exactly.
wouldn't you use it?
Yeah. If it makes our jobs easier and
Yeah,
faster and moves all of the friction away from just creating brilliant art, then
yep,
all the best.
absolutely,
That's what we're here to do as engineers. That's
yeah,
our role. So, we embrace it and we make it even better, So
yeah,
that's my sort of opinion on it. Because a lot of people are like, oh, dude, like, it's like, mate,
yeah,
if you're scared, you are gonna get left behind. Like, there's no
yeah,
way
right.
about it. So
The thing that we really need is robots to set up microphones and drums and take all the amps in and out and all of that. That's what we really need.
yeah, but then you wouldn't have the assistant to wind up, and
Yeah,
you can't wind up a
that's
robot,
true.
can you? You can't
Yeah,
send a robot to the DIY store to ask him for a long wait and tartan paint.
yeah,
So we
exactly.
need those. We need those guys.
Yeah, yeah, true.
um, I can see behind you a lot of fantastic accolades and awards. You've
Yeah,
got Grammy nominations there, number one, and you also have a Brit Award
yeah.
as well. I wanted to know,
That's
like,
Stormzy. These are Stormzy over
yeah,
here.
amazing. I mean, jealous. I want one. um,
I'll sell it to you.
yeah. What would you say is like one of the standout moments like that in your career where you just sort of like maybe just took a second and was like, damn, we really doing something special here.
Well, I mean, man, this is what year was this? That was let's say let's say there was a good couple of years there where there was 3 Grammy nominations, like one after every year for 3 years in a row.
Wow.
And then, I mean, not necessarily like their categories are kind of weird. So when I say 3 nominations, it's the project. It's not necessarily my name, right?
Yeah, of course.
If we're categorizing it like that, then I was named once as a nominee. The other two was being part of the projects that.
Yeah, but that's an essential role because,
Right.
you know,
Exactly. That's why I still say it's 3 times
a
nominations.
110%, and you should 110% have
Yeah.
take that in, because it's like, it's like anyone when they're in the room. Like Kanye said something interesting in an interview once where he was like, if you're in the room when I create a song, even if you didn't even play one single hi-hat, I still might not have been able to create that record, so I'm still going to put
Yeah.
you on the record. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? As a credited person, because your vibe or whatever you added into it, so you creating being part of that process and whatever manner
Exactly.
is
Yep.
added to the fact of that nomination. So
100%.
yeah.
Yep. So that period of like 2016 to 18 or 19 or something, there was something new every year, like the Grammy nominations and the Stormzy thing. Then it was #1 UK, Brits, So there was a real good stretch there before the COVID times that I'd have to look back on and say, well, that's really where it started
Right.
flying for me. And what I realized about myself through that too was not only was I in a little bit of an unhealthy mental state after that, and what I mean by that is that I realized I had lost the love for it a little bit because all I was doing was chasing names only.
Chasing accolades. Yeah.
Yeah, because like what a stretch. I'm like, oh, I hit all these
Yeah.
things.
I need to keep progressing. Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, I'm lesser than.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And then of course trips to LA. I mean, LA is fantastic every time I was going there, but it didn't help that because literally everyone will only be chasing names.
Yeah, that is the whole mindset out there. Unfortunately, it's a
Yeah.
brilliant place.
Right.
It's but it is a little bit sort of face value, surface value sort of
Yeah.
mindset out there.
Yeah. And so when I look back at those things, I mean, there's a whole bunch on the floor here too that I think
But hang them
are
up, man.
I know. Well, I just moved to a new place, so I'm
Still
behind,
settling in.
but
Yeah.
they're going to be front and center. But I call it the motivation wall.
Yeah. That's it.
So it's not for anyone else but me to look at, to be like, okay, you've done this, you've done that, you've done this, fantastic. What's next?
Yeah. Re-inspiring and just
Exactly.
and as well, it's like, sometimes I feel like, especially as engineers and stuff, like just like a lot of other sort of entrepreneurs and stuff like that, it's it is a constant grind. Like, I'm
Yeah.
always like, what's next? What's next? Like I won't say on this podcast, but I just had a big meeting yesterday and I'm like, super ecstatic about it. Progressions, but then straight away I'm on the train home and I'm like, okay, cool. How can I get more out of this? But it's
Yeah.
like, dude, just appreciate like what
Yeah.
you've done. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah.
And
You
yeah,
gotta be able to know that you're making progress, and you gotta look back on every year that you've had and be like, okay, well, what have I actually done? Okay, good.
yeah,
And then you're on the right track, right? If you don't stop and reflect, then you're just gonna get lost in it in your own
100%.
mind, and that's where I got to. So when I had my first kid, it was the first break that I ever took
Right,
since
yeah.
pursuing it. And I was sitting there being like, well, who am I even?
Yeah. I've just
Like what
worked
is
straight for 20 years. Like,
yeah, what is life? What is this creature? Who am I? Do I
Mm,
even care anymore? Like, man, you name it, everything
yeah.
was going through my head.
That's crazy. So, I mean, what did you do to sort of like deal with that and like try to like move past it? Do you know what I mean?
Just time. I took, well, I pretty much took the maternity time with my wife,
Right.
and we just traveled. That's one of the things that I love doing. We took the baby with us. We just hit up, I don't know, he's been to probably like 15 countries already. He's only 2.
Been more countries than I have.
Yeah,
I'm 30.
yeah. So, and I thought, I needed to go through all of that to like I didn't go straight back into music. Obviously, I'm doing bits and pieces. I still take on mixes or
Yeah,
do little
yeah.
sessions here and there. But I just gave it time. I
Right.
gave it time to really know, like, you're being silly and overreacting. You just need a break.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
You know.
bit burnt out. Just a bit
Yeah,
burnt out. That's
exactly.
it.
Exactly.
I mean, that leads me on to one of the questions that I actually like asking on the show is, obviously outside of mixing and working constantly, just being in the studio, like I find it very, very important to get out and do other things. And I'm always quite interested to know like what other people get up to, like outside, like hobbies or, just like general interest. What's something that how do you spend your spare time?
I spend my time looking for flights. I honestly, I like to plan trips. I like to do as many trips as I can. I always say it's one of the best ways to spend your money.
Yeah,
Uh, it improves you depending on what you're doing on your trip. It
yeah, yeah, yeah,
improves you as a person. It exposes you to the way the world really is.
yeah. New cultures,
It
things like that. Yeah.
yeah, it takes you out of, and that comes with good and bad,
Mm.
depending on where you're going. But I think it's honestly one of the best ways to learn about who you want to be and how you want your one single life to play out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, that's
Um,
yeah,
so I travel a lot. Let's bring it back to reality a little bit. The thing, interestingly, that really excites me is going on a long, big walk.
yeah. I love no. I'm exactly the same. That's what I like
Yeah,
to do. I love to plan and go on walks, and
yeah,
yeah, and I do every single week. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah,
At the end of a big walk, I'm just like a changed person.
this is
You
what my
know?
dad said to me, and it sounds so mundane and a little bit silly, but he's like, "You never regret a walk." He always says that
Yeah,
to me, and it's so
yeah,
true. Like,
yeah.
it's just like it sounds so silly, but I don't think enough people do it.
No,
Like they just sit indoors, they go to work,
yeah,
they come home, they get in front of the telly, but like just getting out there. Like I'm weird. I'll put my headphones in, but I won't play any music. I
yeah,
don't know why. It's a habit. I just put my headphones on,
right,
but I just won't play any music, and I'm just in my own thoughts, and that's where like I get all of my ideas, and
yeah,
how I plan everything and sort of deal with like inner conflicts going on.
yeah,
But it's always been a part of me. I was born in the Lake District.
yeah,
Which is, for those that don't know, is northern part of England.
right.
Mountains, is beautiful country, and my mum still lives there. So I go up there like 3-4 times a year, and I just get
Nice.
up, get by myself. Obviously, don't go by yourself if you're not used to it because it can be
Yeah,
dangerous. But like, just go for like a mad long walk. As soon as you get into the valley,
yeah,
you ain't getting no signal. Like you
yeah,
are cut off from the world, and I
yeah,
love it. Like I was there in the summer walking up, and I just found this like big. Um, a big like I can't call it a cliff because it's not quite big enough to be a cliff, but it was a
right.
big drop into this pool in the middle of this valley. And I just said, no one's here, screw it. I just got totally naked, jumped in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Freezing cold. And like,
yeah. Why
I
not?
loved it. Like, I loved it. It's like, that is to me is living like at its fullest,
Yeah, you want to feel alive. Like when I find myself around people that are concerned about stupid crap that other people say, or how they were looked
Yeah.
at, or anything stupid, that's just like, well, why are you wasting your time?
Life's too short.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Life's too short.
Follow your goals, figure out what you want to do, and go do it.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I've got two more questions for you, and
Yep.
and we'll wrap it up.
Sure.
Um, my last question, and it's quite interesting, especially from what we were talking about before we started the show, and like where you are in your life at the moment. Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Like, where do you find yourself being? Like, doing what?
It's a good question because I didn't ever think really that I was going to come back here, but typical thing, kids change everything, right?
Mm,
And I wanted more family around. It was quite difficult for me to adjust as let's just not even music, but a creative in the freelance world, to adjust to fatherhood.
mm.
And in the years leading up to that, let's say the last 5 years or stuff or whatever, I'm ticking off new boxes. You know, I started a little label developing artists. I even was a co-artist myself on some of these releases as Boom Dice.
I saw on your credits,
Yeah,
actually. I had to listen to some
and
of the records. Really cool.
yeah, and that's been great fun. It's been a massive learning experience, you know. So now I run consultations with people, and that's to discuss how you facilitate your mixer contracts, your producer contracts, your, you know, uh, any having everything covered. Where's the royalty streams coming from? How do you make sure you're
That
covered as an
is
engineer?
super interesting. Do
Yeah.
you have a link to that?
No, it's just you hire me on the website or whatever.
Okay, well,
So
we'll put that in as well, because
yeah,
I think
I'll
that,
give you I'll give you all the details.
yeah, because I think that is you just saying that is something, you know, that is a definitely needed service within the industry.
Yeah,
Like 100%.
yeah,
Something that everyone walks in blind to. And it's not until they get stung that they realize,
that's right.
oh shit, I actually need to know this stuff.
That's
Like,
right. Yeah,
so that's a brilliant service. And something that I
yeah,
actually never even thought about. Like, you know, that, you know, people should be doing that, like
yeah,
100%. So yeah, well, that's brilliant. I really like that.
yeah. And while I realized like I'm going through it all with all of my projects at all times, you know, now generally speaking, I don't even really click a mouse unless that's all locked in already.
Yeah,
Uh,
100%. Yeah, yeah.
so stuff like that, where you know, much like how the progression from assistant to engineer to mixer to producer, songwriter, A&R, blah blah blah. I'm ticking boxes and trying new things at all times. One of the things I set out to do, one of my inspirations actually was Manny Marroquin in as a mixer,
Right.
but also as somebody who can go from this to that to this to that to this to that
Mm.
and not be pigeonholed into one thing.
So just versatile across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And interestingly, I found that outside of being part of the creative process, um, I'm pretty good at the business side as well. So where I see that going in a few years, I'm not 100% sure because there's still stuff, you know, I just got a publishing deal last year with Centric Music. I just got um, neighboring rights representation. So I'm getting all of these third parties because simply it's too much work for myself.
Mm.
But uh, I'm a lot more interested in the business side and helping people navigate it because it's set up so badly.
Mm.
Um,
It's confusing as hell, and it's like
yeah,
almost purposely set up in a
right.
confusing manner for people to lose money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So doing stuff like that, there's definitely going to be a lot more of that. I mean, I love being an A&R. I love putting songwriters and producers together. I love being in the position where I can recognize the potential in people, bring them together, make something banging, and then finish it.
Yeah, yeah. The finisher.
Yeah,
Exactly
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
That's
And
wicked.
then I can dip in and out of, you know, if I want to just put some mix touches on or find the right people to, you know, make it the best that it possibly can be. So
Mm,
that includes the tracks that we put out on the label. I've been putting marketing budget towards it, you know, running press campaigns, radio campaigns, all that kind of stuff.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
the switch to that, and it's not even a switch because I just still do the same stuff I was doing. I've just added more to my plate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
And doing it for others, you know, as
right,
well. So
exactly.
yeah.
So that's exciting. I couldn't tell you where it's going to go yet, but you know, the label end I think is definitely on the cards.
I mean, that sometimes that's where the best things end up, you know, when you don't really
Yeah,
fully even understand yourself what you're doing. Do you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
It's similar to like this show that I started. I just knew that I
Yep,
just wanted to talk to
absolutely.
brilliant engineers, and you know, it's developing much faster than I ever thought it would. Do you know what I
Good,
mean?
good for you.
And taking, and it's, you know, growing into something else already.
Yep,
So it's like that's how I like to live, and I've always lived like that, and I think it's important to live like that. Obviously, have a plan, have a goal, but like
yes,
if you are too sort of like, you know, hyper focused, you'll miss all the other opportunities. You know what I mean? Like you have to be able to see the open door and walk through it,
Yeah.
like, you know, when you walk past it. So yeah, that's really cool, man. You know, all the best with all that stuff. Like, I'm sure you're absolutely gonna smash it, and I look forward to seeing the progression of all that stuff as well. And I might
Well, it's
even
either,
go on.
sorry, I was going to say it's either all that stuff that I just said or win the lottery.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Of course. Of course.
Either one.
If I ever see that your Instagram account just gets deactivated or something, I
Yeah.
know you've won the lottery.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And let me know about all those links as well, because we'll I'm quite interested into looking into it. Do you know what I mean? And we'll,
Cool.
you know, anyone watching, if it's a service that, and I would recommend everyone sort of get as clued up as they possibly can do about this stuff. You know, it's definitely something to look into.
Yep.
The last question I'll ask you, and it's sort of like a double question, is, you know, if you had the opportunity to speak to your younger self, knowing everything you know now, and that including everyone else watching this show that inspires to be, you know, like yourself and in a position like yourself with your career, what would you tell your younger self as some advice?
I would say don't brush if you're legitimately going for it as a career, don't brush the business side off, because nobody's going to do it for you as best or as caring about your business as yourself.
Mm,
So, like, I let a lot of people in because, like, you know, we're all social creatures, and sometimes people talk a good game, but they can't deliver. And that might be the difference between blowing a couple years or not,
yeah, of course.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So you gotta be careful, because there's creatives within such a confined space, all vying with for different positioning and goals, and all of that stuff can get volatile because it's not necessarily a shared common goal, right? And we're
No.
not just talking single projects. We're talking, you know, are you building meaningful relationships with people? Like, I've noticed over the years, a lot of people, when I was, let's say, down here, that were kind of in the mentorship position for me at the time, once you go up like that, they just disappear for you,
Yeah.
even for simple questions. So it's really difficult out there to find someone that aligns with your principles and values and your
Yeah.
goals,
And
and
just
really
and has
understand.
integrity when it comes to the
That's right.
relationship. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I
So
couldn't
I
I
would.
couldn't agree more with that statement, actually. You
Mhm.
know, I think as you progress through your career, you will inevitably come across speed bumps like that and situations like
Yeah.
that. And it is one of those things, like, it's hard to teach. You sort of have to learn the
Yeah.
hard
It
way.
is.
But like, there is no one that has your best interests at heart other than you. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. That's
So,
right.
and it's a sad reality of life.
Yeah.
But so, you know, not being said that you can't let people in and you can't work with people and you can't collaborate, but like,
Yeah.
you know, make sure that you understand the position on what you're collaborating with, so that you know
Yeah.
that you're not going to get like screwed,
Yeah.
basically.
100%.
Yeah.
And even taking that on a simple example, artists have been conditioned, and, you know, we all work with people that could be better at what they're doing at various times throughout it, but artists are sometimes shocked. Like, when I just said to you, for example, uh, I'll run consultations, talk about your contract, tell you what's wrong, what's missing, blah blah blah. They're like, well, what's the catch? You
Yeah.
know? And it's like nothing. It's to educate you, it's to make sure you have help. It's
Right.
because I didn't have that stuff. I had to learn it without help, while mentors disappeared as you start challenging positioning
Mm.
in some cases.
And
So,
there's a lot of people out there that just don't even have that network. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Of people
yeah,
that are educated in stuff like that.
exactly.
Like, I'm quite lucky. Like, my sister studied law. You know, my
Right.
dad's an entrepreneur. Like, I
Yeah.
have a family around me that, you know, when I come
Right.
across these speed bumps or a situation that I personally don't fully understand, I'm able to sort of reach out for help. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But a
Yeah.
lot of people don't have that. So, you know,
Yeah.
and it is important to try and find people that can educate and making sure that you take the time to learn.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm.
Don't take shortcuts.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no shortcuts because you
No.
will. No, there is no shortcut. You pay for it eventually. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
pay. You
That's true.
pay for it eventually. Yeah, one way or
Yeah.
another. So,
Yeah.
man, honestly, what a brilliant conversation. That was really super insightful as well, and yeah, very very cool. And especially someone like yourself that's come from abroad and dominated the UK scene, smashed it, and then said, "See ya." But I mean, you know, brilliant. And as I said to you earlier, you know, I'm coming down to Toronto, so we'll definitely have to
Yeah.
link
That'd
up
be good. Yeah. Hit
when
me
we're
up
there.
for sure.
Yeah,
And
100%.
also, thanks for having me, by the way, because
My pleasure.
I always do. I always get motivated and reinvigorated when I do stuff like this with people like yourself. So
Yeah. It's nice. It's like
it's been a while and it's nice, you know.
yeah, it's like a reflection of everything,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
That's why I
Exactly.
love that's why I love this job. I get to do it and I get to speak to unique people. And I mean, since I've started this, like just going off on a little tangent, I have doubled my capacity of learning. Like it's
Sweet. Yeah.
unbelievable. So, and I hope everyone watching is having that same experience. So, but
Good.
yeah, all of Brian's links and stuff will be below. Anything that he wants to promote and talk about or show you guys will all be below. And if you have enjoyed this episode, please give it a like. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Safe.